Most people think feeding a family from scratch takes land. A backyard at minimum. Maybe an acre. Maybe more. Here's what they don't know. A family of 4 can grow a meaningful share of their own vegetables in a space smaller than a parking spot. No field. No garden. No outdoor space required. 5 setups make this possible right now. Each one works differently. Each costs less than most people expect. And one of them literally grows food in a closet. Global food prices have risen sharply since 2020. According to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, average food costs increased by over 30% between 2020 and 2022 alone. They haven't fully recovered. At the same time, urban populations keep growing. More people, less land per person, smaller homes, smaller yards. The average American household spends roughly $412 a month on groceries. That's from a U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics 2023 report. For many families, that number climbs every year. Micro-farming doesn't replace a supermarket. It doesn't need to. Even replacing 20 to 30% of a family's vegetable consumption with homegrown produce makes a measurable difference. In cost, in freshness, in nutrition. The setups that make this possible are smaller, cheaper, and simpler than most people imagine. And none of them require farming experience to start. Each of the 5 setups in this video solves the land problem differently. Some go vertical. Some go circular. One doesn't need light at all. Here's where it starts, and it begins with a shape that's been used for centuries. Setup 5, the keyhole garden. It's one of the oldest micro-farming designs still in active use. It was refined in southern Africa in the 1990s as a direct response to drought and shrinking space. Here's how it works. You build a circular raised bed, about 6 feet wide. In the center, you place a compost basket, a tube of wire mesh packed with organic waste, kitchen scraps, cardboard, dry leaves. Every time you water that basket, nutrients seep outward into the surrounding soil. The plants feed continuously. From waste. The shape matters too. The keyhole is a small notch cut into the circle. It lets you reach the center without stepping on the bed. No compaction. No wasted space. A well-built keyhole garden, roughly 6 feet across, can support up to 20 different plants at once. Kale, tomatoes, peppers, and herbs. All from a footprint smaller than a dining table. But if you don't have outdoor space at all, not even a balcony, Setup 4 removes that requirement entirely. And it runs on zero power. Setup 4, cracky hydroponics. No pump, no electricity, no moving parts. Cracky hydroponics is about as simple as growing food without soil gets. You fill a container with nutrient-rich water. You suspend a plant in a net pot above it. The roots dangle down into the water. As the plant drinks, the water level drops. That gap between the surface and the roots, that air gap, keeps the roots healthy. Water below, oxygen above. Constantly. You refill the container when it runs low. That's the entire system. Dr. Bernard Krake developed this method at the University of Hawaii. It was published in a peer-reviewed research in 2009. It's been used in classrooms, apartments, and food deserts ever since. Leafy greens work best. Lettuce, spinach, bok choy. A single 5-gallon bucket produces heads of lettuce every 3 to 4 weeks. Continuously. The startup cost under $20 for a basic single-plant setup. It's passive. It's cheap. It works on a kitchen counter. But Setup 3 takes the vertical idea further, and the yield numbers start to get genuinely surprising. Setup 3, vertical tower gardens. Most gardens spread outward. Tower gardens grow upward. A vertical tower is a column of growing pockets, typically 2 to 4 feet tall, where plants grow from the sides. Roots face inward toward a central reservoir. A small pump circulates nutrient water from the bottom up through the column. One tower. About 2 square feet of floor space. Up to 28 plant sites. Tower garden, one of the most widely used commercial systems, has been independently tested by the University of Mississippi. Their published research found that tower-grown crops yielded up to 30% more than equivalent soil-grown crops. In the same time period, That's not a marketing claim. That's a controlled study. You can grow strawberries, herbs, lettuce, kale, and small tomatoes in a tower setup, indoors or outdoors, on a balcony or in a living room near a window. The pump draws power similar to a phone charger. And because everything is stacked, you're farming vertically in the same footprint as a chair. But growing plants is one thing. Setup 2. Introduce something entirely different into the loop. It changes what's possible in a small space, and it produces 2 food sources from one system. Setup 2. Aquaponics, the living loop. Here's the moment that changes how you think about small-scale farming. Aquaponics combines fish farming and plant growing in one closed loop. At the micro scale, inside a family home, it works differently than you'd expect. The basic setup: a fish tank on the bottom, a grow bed on top. A small pump cycles water from the tank up to the plants. Plant roots filter the water. Clean water flows back to the fish. The fish produce waste. Bacteria convert that waste into nitrates. Nitrates feed the plants. Plants clean the water. Fish thrive. Nothing gets added except fish food and occasional water to replace evaporation. A standard home aquaponics unit, about the size of a kitchen island, can house 10 to 15 fish and support up to 70 plants at the same time. Tilapia and goldfish are the most common choices. Both are hardy. Both tolerate beginner mistakes. According to research published by the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, aquaponic systems use up to 90% less water than conventional soil gardening. 90% less. In your kitchen or garage, fish feed the plants. Plants clean the water. You harvest both. A family running a modest home system can produce leafy greens year-round, plus a small but meaningful fish harvest every few months. 2 food sources. 1 loop. 1 small footprint. But setup 1 doesn't need a loop at all. It doesn't need light. It doesn't need a pump. It barely needs space. And its yield per square foot beats almost every other food crop you can grow at home. Setup 1. Mushroom grow blocks. This one stops people cold. Mushrooms aren't plants. They don't need sunlight. They don't need soil. They grow in the dark, on a bag of sawdust, in a space the size of a closet shelf. Here's how simple it is. You buy a fruiting block, a compressed bag of sterilized sawdust packed with mushroom spores. You keep it moist. You leave it somewhere cool. Within 10 to 14 days, mushrooms push through the surface on their own. 1 5-pound block yields up to 15 pounds of food across multiple harvests. 15 pounds. 1 bag. No light. No soil. No outdoor space. According to the USDA, oyster mushrooms, the most common variety for home growing, carry meaningful amounts of protein, B vitamins, and potassium. Startup cost runs between $15 and $30 per block. Lowest cost. Smallest space. Highest yield per square foot. You can grow food. In a closet. Starting today. So which setup is right for you? It comes down to one thing: your space. If you have a small outdoor area, even just a patch of dirt or a rooftop, the keyhole garden is your starting point. Low cost. High output. Self-sustaining once it's built. If you're indoors with a window, Cracky Hydroponics gets you growing this week. Under $20. No skills required. If you want to scale indoors, a vertical tower multiplies your yield without multiplying your footprint. If you want a self-feeding ecosystem, aquaponics gives you plants and protein from one closed loop. And if you have almost no space, a shelf, a corner, a closet, mushroom blocks produce more food per square foot than almost anything else you can grow. None of these setups require farming experience. None require a large upfront investment. The smallest, a single cracky bucket on a counter, costs less than 2 restaurant meals. Here's what's worth understanding about all 5 of these systems. They weren't designed as hobbies. They were designed as solutions. Solutions to food deserts, to rising grocery costs, to families in apartments who were told they couldn't grow their own food. Now think about what a combined setup looks like. A keyhole garden in the backyard, a cracky bucket on the kitchen counter, a mushroom block on a laundry room shelf. 3 systems, 3 different foods, 3 different growing methods. Together, they cover vegetables, leafy greens, and protein from 3 different corners of one home. Year-round, the families doing this today aren't homesteaders. They're people in cities, in apartments, in houses with small yards. Most started with 1 setup, then 2, then 3. It compounds quickly. Each of these setups challenges the same assumption that feeding yourself requires land. It doesn't. It requires a system. And every system on this list can be running in your home within a week. If you want to understand the science behind how these systems work at a larger scale, the previous video breaks down warehouses that outproduce 350 acres of farmland. If you want videos like this every week, subscribing takes 2 seconds and keeps them coming. Thanks for watching.